especially for you. We're singing loud and strong. There's a lot we want to say, but don't know how to say it. It's about how much we love you. Here we are to sing it. Di kahit warto, you are a bright light, guiding a path when it's dark as night. You have the power to light up the room, a smile that makes our hearts go boom. We look back on how you've guarded our faith. We feel an enormous gratitude. So millions of us sing today. Today we celebrate. Today we celebrate. Strengthened by your leadership since 2009. We appreciate everything you do. From all over the world, from 6 students taking you for teaching us God's words. Because of all you do, my words we promise you forever will be with you. Others say I love you 3,000, just say how much they can, but we love you forevermore. So we will always be one with you, for there are millions of reasons to love you. Millions of reasons to love you. Millions of reasons. Ka Eduardo, how we love you.
Es un deber hacia el Padre Celestial adorarle de todo corazón.
Completamente dediquémonos, porque al final del mundo cerca está.
Siempre obedezcamos con humildad, nuestro deber cumplamos con amor. Mutuamente cuidémonos, entre todos ayudémonos. Avancemos hacia muchos más éxitos en las obras de su amada iglesia. Trabajemos siempre en perfecta unidad, por la gloria del Padre, el Hijo y Dios.
En el Padre confiemos sin cesar, todopoderoso es de verdad.
Y pidámosle en oración
que alcancemos la prometida salvación.
avancemos hacia muchos más éxitos en las obras de su amada iglesia. Trabajemos siempre en perfecta unidad, por la gloria del Padre, el glorioso Dios. Avancemos hacia muchos más éxitos en las obras de su amada iglesia, para que recibamos su prometida sagrada
Each of us have 24 hours a day on our hands, but most of the time it seems time is not enough. And so we often say, I wish I had more time. But then the question is, how do we fit everything we need to do in the amount of time that we have? And so tonight in UJ Radio, let's talk about and discuss how to make every moment and every minute count. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
example, ikaw ay binigyan ng maraming task, maraming mga projects ang ipapagawa sa'yo. Kung ito ay naplano mo na ahead of time, bago pa ibigay sa'yo ito, madali mong magagawa ito, madali mong ma-execute yung mga bagay na kailangan para dito. Siyempre, ikaw ay dapat marunong magplano. Di ba? Magpaplano ka sa isang bagay na dapat mong gawin. Pangalawa, dapat marunong kang mag-organize and mag-prioritize. Di ba? Kung ano ba yung gagawin mo, i-organize mo na kaagad. Di ba? Para madali mong ma-execute yung mga nagawa mo ng pagpaplano. And dapat prioritize mo to kasi kung hindi mo rin matatapos or magagawa ito sa takdang oras. Para magawa mo ang isang bagay sa oras na gusto mo siya matapos, dapat marunong kang humindi sa mga gumagambala sa paligid mo. Dapat stress-free ka din and dapat relax ka lang para matapos mo yung isang bagay na gusto mong tapusin.
First, we have to know what to prioritize. Dapat po nating ipagpauna ang mga bagay na mas importante. Second, set a time limit sa bawat task na gagawin. Ito ay para sa ikakaayos ng schedule po natin. Third, mas mabuti kung magplano po tayo ng mas maaga. Ito po ay para maging organized at hindi tayo malito kung ano pa dapat gawin. Fourth, tanggalin ang mga bagay na hindi naman na po importante. We should remove unnecessary tasks or activities. Panghuli, magpahinga po sa paggawa ng tasks at ng time management. Importante ang pahinga. Hindi ka po makakapag-move forward sa next task mo kung hindi ka po magpapahinga. Know what to prioritize. Kung importante at urgent po, gawin po agad. Kung importante naman po pero hindi naman po urgent, magdesisyon kung kailan gagawin. Isingit ang dapat isingit sa schedule, ngunit huwag kakalimutan magpahinga.
Ayun, napakahirap talaga nun, di ba? Yung naaalikaga tayo, yung parang namamadali tayo, nape-pressure tayo. So ayun, siguro para maalagaan mo pa rin yung time management schedule mo, just stay focused and dapat ikaw ay may self-awareness. Dapat always track your time. Diba? Kung alam mo naman na kaya pang magawa yung isang bagay after nito, huwag kang magmamadali. Kumbaga, mag-focus ka pa rin kung saan yung ginagawa mo, dun sa nauna mong na-prioritize para magawa mo pa ito ng maayos. And then, tsaka ka lang mag-move on dun sa isang bagay. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, totoo, napakahalaga ng oras. Diba? Time is gold, ika nga. Pero kailangan mo rin kasi ma-execute na maayos yung bawat proyekto or yung bawat aktibidad na ibinibigay po sa atin. Dapat marunong pa rin tayo na magpahalaga ng isang project, isang activity. Dapat lahat yan ay nabibigyan natin ng kabuluhan. So yun lang yung sagot ko and siguro kahit paano ay may maitutulong ito sa inyo.
All right, welcome to our show on another Saturday, one of the last few Saturdays of 2021. 3 weeks until 2022 arrives, and how are we going to spend our time in the last few weeks of 2022? That's what me, Brother Randall, and our special guest will be discussing tonight. Like our previous brother said, as you saw in that video, time is gold, but unlike gold, well, probably the same thing as gold. Time is finite, right? You can't make more time like you can make more. They often say time is money, but you can always make more money. You can't make more time. So I guess the best way to make more time is to better manage more time, right, Brother Randall? What you think? Especially you as a pilot, you got to stick to those schedules or else there's going to be traffic on the runway.
That's completely right, Brother Kyle. And before anything else, I'd like to welcome you back. I'm glad you're back, and we missed you last Saturday.
Yes. Part of it was because I was on the runway and there was a little bit of traffic. That's what happens when you take one of the last few flights going back into Metro Manila, no?
But what's more important than that is you got back in one piece, and we're happy to have you back. Anyhow,
I'm missing a pinky.
Anyhow, yeah, I just got back yesterday, and I'm trying. Speaking of time, I'm trying to get back with Philippine time. Although my body clock is still way back, like what, 16 hours behind where I'm at right now. Pero I'm getting the hang of it. But nevertheless, I'm glad to be back. It's another Saturday evening. So once again, hello po to all our viewers from different time zones all across the globe. Tonight's episode will be one of the most interesting. It's because it concerns everybody. And later on, I'll tell you one thing of how I get to say about time in a different way, differently from how people look at it. You'll know in a little bit while. But before I forget, allow me to please greet po our sister from Long Beach, California, Sister Jennifer. Sister Jen, happy birthday. And I'm sorry I couldn't stay a little bit longer for your birthday. But anyhow, my family and myself would like to extend our greetings. Happy birthday po sa inyo. Anyone you wanted to greet for tonight, Cal, before we proceed?
Also, just my sister. She's celebrating her birthday. I will not take any more time to say how old she is because she will not be very happy with me. But happy birthday, Catherine. I love you very much. And let's not waste any time. I want to go ahead and bring our special guest, our brother across the Pacific. Well, it depends on which direction you're going around the world. But yeah, across the Pacific Ocean, all the way in Notting Hill from the local congregation of Notting Hill, the United Kingdom. He's also the head deacon of that locale and a clinical psychologist by profession. Luckily, we're not paying for his time. It can get pretty pricey. But Brother Darwin Bison, thank you once again for joining us on the show, especially live. I love the time zones. Perfect way of talking about time today. Welcome to the show, Brother Darwin.
Thank you so much, Brother Kyle and Brother Randall, for having me on the show. And yeah, it's great to be here. And hi to all the viewers here. Hopefully, we'll be using your time wisely, and you'll be getting more tips on how to manage that precious resource of time, like we mentioned.
All right. I'd like to start with the time. It's 8:13 here in Quezon City. What time is it there on Notting Hill?
So it's now 12 minutes past 12 in the afternoon. So I think 8 hours difference there.
8 hours.
All right, I want to focus on you first. What time do you normally wake up in the morning, or what's the first few? How do you spend your first few moments of the day?
So I really do try to be consistent and stick to a schedule. I try to be as strict as possible with myself. So I get up at 6:30 every morning. 6:30 every morning, and I do try to get at least between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So I go to sleep around 10:30 when it's a good day. But the first few things of the day is really just trying to get myself set up in the right way. So I do look at what my schedule looks like for the day, so that I'm aware of how I'm using my time for the rest of the day.
So it's not like you wake up in the morning and you're scrolling on Twitter for an hour, right? You're looking at your calendar. This is what I got to do. This is how I'm going to manage my time. And then you pray, get up out of bed and take a shower, have your cup of coffee, do your thing. Something like that?
That's exactly it. And try to do the same thing every day. So for me, consistency is key. Yeah.
Yes, totally. Consistency is key.
That's great. Brother Kyle, anything above 7 hours of sleep, I mean, I'll be happy to have that. I couldn't even remember when was the last time I had more than 7 hours of sleep. I'll be lucky enough to have 5 hours. That'd be good rest enough for me. And
unfortunately for Brother Randall, he's a pilot, and I don't know how much control he has over his time. Unlike maybe me and Brother Darwin, we're kind of settled in one. Our feet are on the ground, basically.
That's completely true. And to mention one, it's quite difficult for me to plan on schedule. Unlike with the Brother Darwin here, could actually make it consistent every day, right? Like what he mentioned earlier. But when it comes to my case, I do have a schedule for the day and the next day and the third day from now. But the problem is, what if I get to fly suddenly? So I'd have to talk to everyone whom I made appointments with and try to rebalance, weigh things out, which comes first and which can wait for a little bit longer, So Brother Darwin, let me ask you, how important is time management for you when it comes to improving your life?
Yeah, like what's already been mentioned a number of times is that time is limited. Time is a finite resource, and we obviously don't want to waste it. But for myself, and I'm guessing from everybody here, we often feel guilty that we're not using our time as efficiently as we'd like to. So because it's limited, I always try to encourage myself and the people I work with that we've got to be clear about how we're actually using our time. So I have to always try to evaluate what my roles are in my life, so that I know that the time I'm using is relevant to particular roles that I have in my life. So I could talk a bit more about that, but that's basically the broad way of looking at how I manage my time to ensure that the different aspects of my life are balanced, because I don't just do one thing. I don't just do, actually, we all have multiple roles in our lives. And often the guilt comes from that imbalance. Like the most common one that we come across is our roles as family. You know, I often hear I'm not spending enough time with my family, and that imbalance causes the guilt, and that turns into a real vicious cycle of chasing time, and we know what happens when we use time inefficiently. Yeah.
You mentioned roles, and Brother Darwin, can I say, would I be correct in saying that because we all have specific roles in our lives, you a lot, of course, like maybe buckets of time. So we have Brother Darwin as Brother Darwin, then we have Brother Darwin as Dr. Darwin, and then we have Brother Darwin as Dad Darwin, or Brother Darwin, or Uncle Darwin. Like, is that how I could, be correctly like categorizing our scheduling or your scheduling?
Yeah, absolutely. So those would be my broad categories. So yeah.
So you drill down deeper.
I do drill down deeper because within, for example, my work as a clinical psychologist, I'm not just a psychologist to see clients or patients. I also have to do a lot of admin work, report writing. I also do some, service development, kind of planning for how to improve things. So those are, I see those as different roles, because within my job, again, you can drill down, and I drill down to it as useful as it gets, so that things are balanced. I think balance is the other key term there.
I used to organize my calendar kind of in the same way that you do. I would have 3 buckets for myself, for my relationships, and for my work. But working through that throughout the years, I kind of drilled down even further, especially as a public figure. It was my private life, my public life, and then a business that I find worth my time, and that's immensely helped me figure things out, instead of having just like a calendar that's everywhere, that's kind of like looking for things to grab on and to hook onto. I like what you mentioned about having roles, because that helps us better categorize things. I'm not a messy desk type of guy. I don't know about Brother Randall. Are you a messy desk type of guy? And because I'm not, I have a pristine desk, everything in its place. So same thing with my calendar, my schedule.
Yeah, Brother Kyle and Brother Darwin, I tend to be more organized, but I wish I could be more organized too, because when I look at my stuff, they're not really where it's supposed to be. But I just want to do a little bit additional of what Brother Darwin and of course you, Kyle, have mentioned earlier. You actually feel the guilt if you don't use your time wisely. Now, let me give you an example. Like right now, Philippine time, Brother Darwin, it's 8:19 in the evening, and today is December 11th, Saturday. Tomorrow there might be another 8:19 in the evening, but mind you, there would no longer be 8:19 in the evening, Saturday, December 11th. So like what Brother Kyle mentioned earlier, money, it comes and goes, but time, it never goes back. You know what I'm saying, Brother Kyle? And so my question is to Brother Darwin, when it comes to decision making, of course, knowing that you can never pull back time, how does it affect your decision making?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, because that is the key thing is as well. Making a decision on what to do with your time, and stepping back a little. One of the ways I look at tasks or demands that come in is further categorizing those, because if you think about it, I'm sure we've all experienced this, is that everything can be urgent, right? Everything can be urgent and important, and we can spend all of our time reacting to demands, to requests, and we can spend all day doing that, all day reacting. But because time is limited, and it's one whole, if we spend too much time in one category, like doing all the urgent and important stuff, at what cost? What are we then not spending time on? Mm-hmm. So it's always a good idea for me to make sure that I do have time for all the urgent stuff, because we can't avoid those things, but to at least spend most of my time doing what I intend to do, mm-hmm. as much as I can. I know I can't control everything, but if you plan as best you can and do what you say you're going to do, whilst giving yourself enough time to do the necessary emergencies, then I think you can accommodate for the reality, I guess, the reality of reality. Life, right?
I like that. Brother Darwin, before this interview began, I was looking at the script and I saw the qualification of course, Brother Darwin, Brother Kyle, and I wanted to take this opportunity because I've always had this from when I was in high school until present, that I call this the tyranny of time. I hope you know what I mean, because like every day-to-day occurrences, we tend to get too preoccupied, finding and fighting for opportunities, that we become slaves of time. And what I mean when I say I become slave of time is that no matter how much you want to do something else, that you begin to think, you focus on, before I could basically do that, I have some deadlines to catch. I have to accomplish this at a certain date. And then you look at the time and as if you're obliged to time rather than time being obliged to you. I don't know if I'm trying to get the point, but the tyranny of time, like as I call it, it's because human as we are, we're supposed to be more boss than the time. But what's happening, especially with where we are today, is that it is us human beings who become followers of time. It means to say we never have control over time. We always have to race against time. So you might want to give us, specifically me, Brother Kyle, and the rest of our viewers, how could we alleviate this feeling of tyranny against time?
Well, you use the word there, feeling, and we could use that interchangeably with emotions. And the two problematic emotions when it comes to productivity are anxiety and guilt. Yeah. As much as possible, we want to lower both of those to the minimum levels. If we think about anxiety, I know we've talked about anxiety in the past, but if we think about anxiety, it's an emotion that tells you that there's danger coming up. And all your body and your mind want you to do is either run or fight, or fight or flight, exactly. Yeah. Now, if you then think about, well, I need to be sitting down here, focusing my mind to do a particular task, and all my body and my mind want to do is run or fight or flight. You end up in this, as you say, the tyranny of time, where you're chasing time. You're not effective because your body and mind aren't in the productive mode. You're in fight or flight mode. You're not getting things done. You're getting further and further behind, and time is running out. So that it's a huge, huge problem. So that's why it's really important that people take time management really, really seriously, because it can then lead to further problems down the line.
I think that's a key word, management. When Brother Randall mentions the tyranny of time, and we're talking about our emotions, and you just mentioned that we feel like that we're running out of time. It's basically, maybe I could argue that it's just out of control. So if you can't find a piece of paper or a document on your desk, ano gagawin natin? I-organize natin yung desk natin, right? We have to organize our desks. So I'm curious as to how you organize your time, Brother. I mean, do you use on your iPhone or your Android phone? Are you using an app that gives you notification? Hey, we've got worship service in an hour. Um, we got to end this, client meeting, etc. Like, what specific concrete uses of or examples of how you manage your time?
So I always start with all the non-negotiables. These are the necessary things, and I also include self-care as a non-negotiable, because the first thing that we tend to sacrifice when we're running out of time is ourselves. Like Brother Randall was saying that he'll get less sleep. I mean, how many of us will say, "Oh, let's just sleep less, and gain more time"? But actually, that's a false. You can only do that for so long before you become less efficient. But
especially the older that we get, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the non-negotiables, including self-care. So you schedule. I even schedule in sleep, for example. So
me too.
Non-negotiables include the worship service. So that's there, right in diary. So all the stuff that you can't move. All your commitments or your client appointments, or your, and those fit neatly. I categorize everything in my calendar according to my roles, so you can visually see, is there a balance visually? So I'll use a calendar and I'll use a digital calendar, but it's whatever works. You could do that on a paper calendar. And all the other bits, all the other gaps of my time that I have, I'll have a list of things that are not necessarily urgent, but are important, that need to be done. And if I have the energy to do those in those gaps, then I'll try to work through my list. But so it's structured around non-negotiables, things that I'm committed to.
Sorry, so if we ask a question, what's the number one rule, number one tip for how to manage your time? It would be simply, from what I understand from you, is structure your time around your non-negotiables: church, sleep, maybe working out 3 or 4 times a week, family time, and right, those main buckets of our lives.
It's interesting that we tend to put the self-care last for a lot of people, and actually, if you spend more time sleeping, eating well, and exercising, you become a lot quicker and more productive and less stressed.
Right, time becomes more better is the word that comes. If I'm running on 6 hours of sleep, the rest of the 18 hours of my day are pretty. But if I'm running on 9 hours of sleep, the rest of my hours of the day are like 10 times better.
Oh, absolutely. The increase in productivity and efficiency is huge. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, Brother Randall. Yeah.
Go ahead. Anyhow, I was trying to say I completely agree with how you said about balancing things. And one of the things I need to do, I say I need to do because I'm not really a good practitioner on that, is I need to balance my taking a break as well. Because I feel like I become more efficient, I become more productive after a good rest, after a good sleep. That would allow me to think even better, to be more creative in how to accomplishing things. And that would save me a lot of time.
I wish we could have Brother Darwin on for longer, because I'd love to see his calendar and see how he structures his time. But bro, I know it's like just after lunch there on Notting Hill in the United Kingdom, and you have other time categorized and blocked off for of course, as a professional clinical psychologist. If you'd like to take this opportunity to greet people, please take it.
Thank you, Brother Kyle and Brother Randall. Yes, I'd like to send some greetings actually to my wife, Charlotte, and to my son, Sebastian. and to all the brethren in Notting Hill and the District of United Kingdom. So hi to and to all everyone who's viewing now. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother Darwin. I know you got a busy day. I appreciate you taking your time once again to join us on UJ Radio. I'm hoping that we'll see you again for a little bit longer, maybe in 2022. We'll catch up and see how we're doing on our New Year's resolutions. Okay, speaking of New Year's resolutions, what's one of yours for, since we're wrapping up the year almost?
Oh, that puts me on the spot, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, I'm going to say it's not a new thing. I'm going to continue to maintain my consistency and my boundaries and looking after my time. Yeah, and the balance, absolutely.
All right, Brother Darwin, thank you very much. We will see you in 2022 for the time being. Now, we're going to go ahead and get back to all of our family, our friends, and our visitors watching us on INC TV and, of course, our YouTube and Facebook friends with Soundcheck. Let's go ahead and cue that Soundcheck. Our mystery sound.
This sounds a lot more than the one we played last time.
Yeah.
Brother Kevin, can you do us a favor, please? One more time.
My initial reaction was the sound of me crumpling a piece of paper on my desk that I got really mad or angry at, and then throwing it away into the wastebasket.
For me, it sounds like a brick being crushed and being stepped upon and being piled up.
We'd love to hear your responses. Unfortunately, Bea is not with us. She's probably the balance of both brains between mine and Brother Randall. So for all of us watching right now, help us out with your guesses. I'm lost on this one, but yes, that was our sound check mystery sound. So please help us try to guess what that sound was by dropping your answers in the comments box, either on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching us now. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and get into a game. AM or PM? What is this game about? Sometimes the hosts on this show don't know what's going to go on. But this one is called AM or PM. We're going to guess the location shown on a slide that's on the screen right now, whether it's daytime or nighttime. And this is where Brother Randall will excel because he goes across different time zones all the time. All right. For right now. But for then, we're just going to go ahead and talk about, again, time management with our show today. Making more time, trying to save time. Earlier at the introduction of the show, Brother Randall mentioned about us saying, I wish I had more time. How many times do you say that a day, Brother Randall?
There's also one way of saying that, Brother Kyle, and that's, I wish I had more than 24 hours in a day. That's tantamount to saying I wish I had more time.
I think it's just, for me personally, I'm just wasting time a lot of the time. Like, a lot of us will wake up from bed and then the first thing we do is get on our phones, and then sometimes I check my email, but then I'll get on another app and my finger just starts scrolling, so I stay a little bit longer in bed than I should be.
I completely agree. As a matter of fact, Brother Kyle, if you only get to jot down or list every minute you're on your phone scrolling to whatever app, I don't want to mention any app, nothing against anybody, Brother Kyle, but if only you get to list all the minutes this second, and then at the end of the week, try to do a tally of how many minutes, hours you get to spend, I bet you could basically get more than a day in a week's time or in a month's time of your time wasted doing that. But for some people, let me just defend them, Brother Kyle. To some people, these applications, they use it for news updates, to contact friends. These are things that they have to do. So it becomes part of their necessary things. the essential, or what Brother Darwin mentioned earlier, something that you cannot not do, you know? So actually, it all depends on how you look at things. But as for myself, I do want to share something. And well, I guess before I go to that, Brother Kyle, allow
Yep.
us to see your um, calendar.
Calendar.
Yep.
Yeah.
How does your normal day or week
That's why I wish
get
Brother
by?
Darwin was with us a little bit longer, because I wanted to compare our calendar. I would love to see Brother Darwin's calendar versus my calendar, because what he talked about with having like organizing and managing our time around non-negotiables, sleep, even, of course, worship service, the work that we have to do, and then I manage my time around that. So we're going to show it on our screen a little bit with a screenshot of my calendar while we wait for our technical crew to bring that up. There you go. So
There it is.
with that, as you can see on your screens, the things on purple are just for me. The things in white, if you look on Sunday, December 12th, worship service at Templo Central is at 10 a.m. I allot a 3-hour block for that at around 8:30. I'll go ahead and get up and start getting ready, so I'm at the temple early enough. And then usually worship service finishes just before lunch, and then I move on for the rest of the day. As you can see, Sunday is my least busy day. I try to give myself, and if there isn't anything urgent, just in a sense, I just want to say kind of time to be lazy and just chill out, because Monday through Saturday, it's like I'm on a very, very strict schedule. Those white spaces that you see will move around, because you cannot predict every single hour that's going to go on during the day, right? So I keep some available white space time in my calendar to do things. Things in red are things that I do for radio. Things in white are church related or INCPC related. Things in black are work related, specifically for myself. And that's pretty much it. How about you, Brother Randall? This is Google Calendar, by the way, and there's a notification for everything. So when like worship service, it says 9 a.m. there, I'll get my phone or my laptop will pop up and say, hey, it's time for worship service.
So you have that kind of dinky reminder to remind you prior to the occasion or event. But well, I wish
Even if you look at the bottom of my calendar, it says pray and
Uh-huh.
sleep at 11 p.m. So I notify myself, hey Kyle, it's 11 p.m. You got to pray and sleep now.
Nice. Well, I wish it could be as structured as you, Brother Kyle, and of course with the rest of our viewers. But mine doesn't just flow that smoothly. And the reason why I said so is, at one point, my schedule could change drastically. Like I do have a schedule tomorrow and the next day thereafter. But for some apparent reasons, if I get called to fly, like tomorrow morning when I wake up, so everything would go in trash. So everything has to be reinvented. So unlike in your case, in which you don't really travel too much, if you do, that's like once in a blue moon, Brother Kyle. But in my case, I normally have to change my schedule every other day. And one thing that's actually bugging me right now is when you don't know definitely where you'll be on that day. Hence, you could never plan for anything. And of course, by saying so, you'd never get to accomplish much and more things as compared in your case, right? So I normally use.
How long are your flights usually? Because you have to block off a huge. I mean, you don't fly 7 days a week, right? So it's like you
Not
fly
really.
5 of the 7 days of the week. Okay.
Yeah, like the ones I had, the past flight that I did, I left at Sunday and I wasn't back until yesterday morning. And to say the least, that doesn't include even the difference in time. Like I'm talking to people from Philippines and I'm somewhere else, like in the Western Pacific. That's what, like 16 hours of time difference. So I'd have to readjust my time because my morning in that part of the world could be nighttime in this part of the world. So I don't get to talk to them. So when they wake up, that's the time for me to sleep when I'm in the West Coast. So what I'm trying to implicate, Brother Kyle, is that time management for me would be like 3 or 4 times more difficult when it comes to you and to the rest of our viewers. But I do make some compromising things and agreement with people. Like if I do miss a lot of time with my family, if I do get to fly often, so when I get back, I make it a point that I get to spend time with them. So it's kind of like babawi na lang ako when I get there. And I wanted to share this with my viewers. I have prepared here. I think everybody knows what this is. It's
It's a
nothing
watch.
ordinary. It's a watch, of course, but this one
It's a
here, we call
GMT.
this the, yes, it's a Navi timer. It's made by one of the most prestigious Swiss watchmakers. Starts with a B. I wish you could say the brand, but it starts with a B, with the letter B as in boy. And what this is actually is it's a chronograph watch. To give you an idea and the rest of our viewers, I'd say this watch is most loved by a lot of aviators. Why? It's linked with our topic because it not just simply tells us about time, but it helps us to plan things with respect to fuel needed, time of travel, and of course, if we know the time, we need to know how much fuel we need, how long we get to the destination, and what comes with it is really valuable because whatever we get out of this, it also helps out to imply safety. Like how much fuel do we have to carry for the flight? Or how long would it take us from point A to point B? And as a matter of fact, since we're discussing about time, this timepiece was introduced late in the 1930s. And then way back 1962, this was the first watch that was allowed to be taken to space in one of the Aurora 7 astronauts by Carlo, one of the astronauts. And that makes us easy to say why even the Royal Army of the country where Brother Darwin's from actually relies on this piece of watch that I'm holding right now.
Mechanical marvel. It's a mechanical watch, right? So
It is. It is.
I'd love to talk about watches too, but how does that that watch, besides telling time in more than one place, it tells times in what, 2 places, 3 places?
Yes, it does. And apart from that, it has a little bit of dials for a second, the millisecond, and the hour. And a lot of these buttons help us to compute things that are really necessary, not just to get time, but to get safely from one place to the other. So here comes another importance of time. So with time, you could always accomplish things safely, on time, and above all, it would help you not just in day-to-day occurrences, but to relate time to other people to make it more essential for them.
That's the first time I've ever heard about a watch that can tell you about the fuel. So
Yeah, this has this dials.
today
that
I
are
learned
really
that today I learned
useful
that there's
to
a watch
compute
that can
time
tell you about
and
the fuel.
management. Yeah, as a matter of
That's
fact,
amazing.
if you've watched one of Sean Connery's movie in 1965, I think it's called the Thunderbolt. They actually use the chronograph, and this manufacturer from Swiss with the letter B, they were the first ones to put the chronograph onto the wrists of the people. So it's quite amazing.
And that, ladies and gents, is how someone like Brother Randall, who travels for a living as a pilot across multiple time zones, I do not know how you balance that with family and church. A lot of it helps with just being aware of the time, especially on our wrist or your cell phone. I know some people who don't even wear watches anymore. If you ask them the time, they just kind of reach into their pockets and take out their cell phone and double tap the screen or press the power button and say, hey, it's this, it's 8:44. But for people who are not traveling across time zones, I use my calendar as something that, like Brother Darwin mentioned, it gives me a good overview of the day, of what I'm supposed to be doing right now and what I'm supposed to be doing next. And there's another app that I use that it follows the Pomodoro Technique. The Pomodoro Technique is something that is basically like a kitchen timer of 25 minutes. So if you can see, this is basically a screenshot of my desktop. All the time is on the corner. There's a countdown of 25 minutes, and I'm supposed to be focused on this specific task for 25 minutes. So let's say, for example, I'm reviewing the script for this week's episode of UJ Radio. I'm only going to be doing that for 25 minutes. And it's so hard because there are so many distractions. I know if you're up in the sky, there's not that many distractions maybe, but like down here on earth, you have your phone, your social media, especially if you're working from home. You have your niece or your nephew or your son and your daughter going, mommy, daddy, and then you have roosters crowing, and there's so many distractions and things that are trying to grab for your time. My brother Darwin mentioned earlier, knowing when to say yes and probably knowing when to say no to certain things, because like you said, Brother Randall, there are only 24 hours in the day. So this Pomodoro technique with this app that I'm using, it's giving me like a 25-minute window to accomplish this specific task, whether it's reviewing a UJ radio script or writing a radio script. I'm giving myself 25 minutes. When that actually runs down, you see on your screen, it says 24 minutes and 15 seconds. When it goes down to 000, it's telling me to take a 5-minute break. Because, well, you and I, Brother Randall, we're not, and if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, we're not robots, right? We can't work nonstop. So when that time runs out, it tells me, okay, you've got a 5-minute break. And that's when I get up, I walk around, I take a deep breath, I'll wash dishes, I'll look out the window, I'll play with my cats. And then after that 5 minutes, it's time for the next work block.
True. And looking at your calendar earlier, Brother Kyle, and the way you structure everything that you have to do in a day, in a week, and in a month, I've got a good question for you. You know how you put all the things that has to be accomplished, all the appointments you have to do? What do you normally do if you miss out? Say, like, if you don't get the target, if a deadline has been gone and you haven't met the whatever it is that you have to accomplish for the day, what do you normally do?
I think this is what Brother Darwin mentioned about, like, if we find ourselves racing against the clock and we're missing things, you start feeling anxious. So what you just mentioned, that scares me, because it starts making me feel anxious. For a long time, I was very, very like type A personality about my schedule. And I would find these complicated ways of trying to organize my time and my to-do list. And eventually I just went back to a regular to-do list, like just a single column of the maybe top 5 or top 3. Here you go. Thank you for bringing that up on the screen. So again, like Brother Darwin mentioned, I basically have 3 buckets or 3 categories of my life: my private life, my public life, and then the things that I do for work. And I just create a to-do list, and basically whatever's on the top is the most important thing. So at the top of your screen, I mean, on your screen, you can see today's top 3. The number 1 thing I have at the top of my list is a 10 worship service at Templo Central. The number 2 thing is record VOs, which is kind of like a work money thing. And then the number 3 thing is something that I'm personally trying to do for myself in terms of like entrepreneurship. But if I can't do something, I'm not gonna get sad and anxious. I'll just move it to the next day. Because it's what's the point, right? Like, if you miss out something, what's the point of being sad or anxious about it? It's just take a deep breath, get up from your desk, take a walk, look out the window, and move on. Because time will not wait for you.
I could completely agree. And one more thing is, you don't really feel guilty, Brother Kyle, as long as you did your best, you did what's necessary to be done to get things accomplished. But at the end of the day, there are just certain things that are beyond your control. Like in my case, like weather, passenger boarding, you can never control those things. And when you don't get to the deadline that was asked of you, or flight could be delayed, as long as it's not your doing, well, that's fine with me. And going back to, you might ask me, Brother Randall, how do you differentiate time when you're in other places, in different countries every week? Don't you ever miss a worship service? And then I wanted to share this. We do have certain apps that we use inside the church, like the iglesianicristo.org. It would tell us basically where the worship service is, when the worship service is. Not only that, it also includes address and the person.
Oh, you're talking about the INC
person.
directory, yes.
Yes, and you go to the contact person. Because other might think, what if there are changes in the worship services? You could always call ahead, email them ahead should there be any changes in the worship service, right? So that, in part, having said, getting into my calendar and putting there the times and days of worship service had never been a problem, despite the fact that I've been traveling all over different countries, different cities and places every week. And
with that, Brother Randall, what does the Bible say about that?
All right. So now, before we go, and let me wrap everything up, despite our busy schedule for everyone. Thank you again, Brother Darwin. And hopefully we get to meet Brother Darwin some other time soon. And before we proceed to the next, let's ask Brother Kevin to please play What Does the Bible Say?
Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is.
All right, and that is what the Bible says about time management. We can actually rewind time. Brother Kevin, please rewind that sound check and let us know what it actually was.
Rewind time, please, Brother Kevin, and let us know what that sound check is all about. You almost got it. It's like plastic versus your paper, Kyle. You almost nailed it, Brother Kyle.
Crumpling paper? I've never crumpled a plastic cup before.
And who would ever do crumple a plastic? Normally, we get into plastic stuff. We just tear it apart and throw it to the garbage can. Anyway, that was close enough for me. And of course, our viewers somehow they have helped us revealed. And I think what's the closest one we've got here is
from Oliver. He said candy wrappers. Basically, it's plastic as well. So I'm going to give it to Oliver Tolentino for getting that guess in.
And one here said from Elenita, she said it's playing Scrabble. It didn't sound like Scrabble chips being thrown, or being organized.
Stuff like that.
Yep. And anyway, thank you so much for all our viewers who tried to guess, and I will get back with you for next week's episode, and we'll have some more for you to guess. And for the time being, before I forget po, my wife's been bugging me. It's December 11. She wants to say hi po pala and happy birthday to Drixie, our niece. Ayan ha, wala na akong utang sa'yo. Hello po, the daughter po of one of her brother-in-law who's also a minister po. Ka-outed po, and her sister Lani. Hello po. Happy birthday to your daughter. Ayan, so thank you very much po, Brother Darwin, and to all our viewers online and on INC TV. Maraming salamat po for spending another Saturday evening with us. And if you enjoyed and were inspired with this episode, please do give us a like or a heart. And please share our like to all our viewers po, to share it to your families and to your friends. And of course, our program and the rest of INCPC's programs wouldn't be possible were it not po of the inspiration and time given to us by our CFO coordinator, Brother Angelo Eranio V. Manalo, and above all po to our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Salamat po. Thank you for your time and your sacrifice for us. Maraming salamat. Brother Kyle?
It seems like time is not running well for me, especially if it's running through the internet cables. You know, that happens. It happens, tech problems, right? So yes, we do have quite a few things to plug. We want to, of course, talk about Fit to Serve. That's happening this Sunday at 8 a.m. Gourmet Made at Home happens Saturday at 12 noon at INCPC's Facebook page and YouTube channel, along on Sundays 11 a.m. On INC TV. Then we have INC MV by request Mondays to Fridays 1 p.m. After that, we have INC Playlist app on the app itself live Mondays to Fridays at 2 p.m. And then we also have Spotlight Season 7 that happens every Sunday at 8 p.m. And then finally, of course, on the INCPC Facebook page and YouTube channel, there are various activities, programs, in concerts, and of course, INC MVs. Again, we want to thank you for all of our friends and families and visitors watching us today. For right now, we'll wrap up this week's episode with an INC MV. Each Day is the name of this one, coming from the INC Music Department from their 11th anniversary concert.
Bye po. Thanks, everyone.